Hey, everybody, and welcome to Wednesdays with Ra. Today is episode 9. And, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about the problem with the ideology of surrendering in the pursuit of enlightenment. So, a couple things here. We are piggybacking off episode 8, where we just talked about releasing limiting beliefs and letting go of obstacles to embrace true awakening. So, that now we're moving to a little bit stickier of a situation or a little bit stickier of a topic. And what we want to really emphasize about this is that things that we talk about tonight and that we're piggybacking off the last episode it's a very fine tightrope that we're walking here. And so it is very easy for people to want to maybe take these things out of context of what we're going to be saying. It's very important that you don't do that, or because some of these topics are very difficult, and you can see when we start talking about these things why it's such a fine line and a tightrope, and how easily it was for these things to be manipulated. And so as we move forward tonight, I just ask that all of you listening really think about this, think about the things that we're saying, and if you have questions, bring them up, because that is the best way. We want to have discussions about these topics so everybody can better understand at their own pace. And it's not even that you have to accept these things that we talk about, but if you're if you're resonating with them and wanting to think about them, that's all that we're putting them out there for, because these are the things that we are learning and we are understanding. And so we want to bring them to you with the help of Ra. And then Michael is here as well tonight. So without further ado, we are going to talk about the pursuit of enlightenment and some of the problems with surrendering. And let me just think here. There's been a lot of things happening this week. Again, I know Maggie and I always say that, but it is true. It is always true. There was a 7/7 portal today, and Maggie can talk a bit more about that. We're getting ready for the Lionsgate portal. So there's a lot of new energies coming in. And I think those are going to lend themselves well to the things that we want to talk about in this episode and the upcoming episodes. But do you want to give a little bit of information on the 7/7 portal, or at least what they've downloaded you?
The 7/7 portal, as far as I understand it, I've actually been fasting in a fasted state for the last couple of days to receive the energy of this portal and to receive information about it. I don't know if everyone else is getting the same information that I'm getting. So like we say, if this, take it if it resonates, if it doesn't resonate, if something someone else is saying resonates more. This is just what they're telling me. Over the last 6 months or so is what they're saying. We've been asked to be releasing a lot of old density, old energy, old programming. And a lot of us have been really, really tired going through that process. Our bodies are a bit burnt out by everything. Our minds are tired. Our hearts are tired. It's been a lot of heaviness that those of us as light workers have been asked to process through ourselves, to bring a lighter energy for the collective for, the coming days and years. And as we're moving up to the 8/8 Lionsgate portal, where they're finally bringing us some energy back in return for this tiredness that we've been feeling and doing all this releasing and purging. For me and what I've received, the energy of this 7/7 portal is highly, highly related to the sun. And the sun is giving us a lot of energy right now to kind of pick ourselves back up, feel a new sense of empowerment and a renewed sort of joy for life after this very trying period so many of us have been in. And they want you to know that these energies that we're receiving to do this are very, very high, because a lot of our bodies are very low and tired right now. So if you feel tired by these energies, or if you feel like you just need to relax and take a nap or take a day of rest, that's totally fine. This energy of tiredness is different from what you've been experiencing over the last weeks and months. This tiredness is your body integrating an energy to be able to stand up strong in the coming days and weeks. So it's not a tiredness that's knocking you out anymore. It's something that your body is resting and relaxing into, so that you can have more energy come the 8/8 portal. And I haven't even received anything about that yet, but it's going to be a lot of energy, and they're starting to quote unquote dose us with some of these higher energies now to bring us back up, so that we can carry the rest of these energies and hold the rest of these higher energies for the collective after having gone through this very heavy period of releasing and purging.
Perfect. So again, you guys, if you have questions regarding anything we're chatting about, please put them in the chat. And other than that, let's delve in. So I think the first place that we should start is talking about the issues with surrendering complete control when in the pursuit of enlightenment. And some people would say, well, what does that mean? But when we're looking for enlightenment and those who are walking the spiritual path, there is certain things that easily want us to allow surrender. And it's this delicate balance between checks and balances is actually what we've been calling it. And in the last episode, we talked about how important it is to release these limiting belief systems and letting go of the obstacles to embrace true awakening. And while that is true, we need to release in a very aware way. We need to accept in a very aware way. And that is the only way that we can properly maneuver our paths to our own enlightenment, whatever that means for you. Because as Maggie and I are learning, not everything in this spiritual world, in the spiritual teachings that everybody teaches, are on the highest timeline, even though it may seem like it. And this is where this complicated tightrope, walking this tightrope comes in, because it looks good. It may even feel good in that moment, because they have you so built up and you're just in this energy and you're like, wow, this is exactly what I need. And this is exactly what I'm going to do. And then we kind of forget it. We slough it off. So in that moment, we just surrendered ourselves because we were in what we thought was a good energy. And these things can easily be manipulated. And so I think a really good place to talk, or at least to start, is places in our spiritual lives where it's easy to surrender control without even really thinking about it. What do you think? Is that, I think that's okay. Yeah. Start there.
I think it's good to start there. And if I can just add something to what you've already said, I know that Temple and I, in our study of spirituality, we've come across a lot of teachers and a lot of spiritual teachings that say you need to just surrender yourself to the universe, surrender yourself to everything, just allow all of these things to happen. The less you resist, the better that it's going to be. That's true in a way, but in a way, sometimes when we do that, we're surrendering a bit too much of ourselves. When we're talking about the agenda of surrender, it's not that surrendering or allowing things in a spiritual sense is good, because if you don't, is not good. Because if you don't allow and surrender, certain aspects of yourself, then you're never going to get anywhere. However, like Temple said, it is a delicate tightrope to walk of how much we're surrendering and how much we're allowing. And if anywhere in that process we're surrendering so much that we don't even have agency over where our lives are going anymore, we're just allowing ourselves to receive information and receive energy on a level that is unconscious. I think a lot of what we've been learning about lately is being in a state of allowing, but also keeping a very high and sharp consciousness about the teachings and the energies and the allowings that we're allowing into our lives. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does to me. And well, I want to add this to it as well. We've talked a lot about bringing things through the heart shutting the mind off. And sometimes because we've allowed too much, it's not even allowing too much. It's not realizing what we're allowing, to what degree we're allowing it. Because we've already allowed it, it's already tricked our brain to make us believe that this is something good for us, when we really just need to learn to sit with our heart. And sometimes it can do this weird thing where our society is so spelled and so manipulated in a way where the brain can actually attempt to trick the heart, because we don't really know, as a society, as a collective, we don't really know what that means to be in our own power. So we're sort of stemming off of all of these episodes that we've already had, but it all comes back to this core aspect of knowing yourself, not blindly allowing, but still surrendering enough to get to your next place while keeping your mind and your heart centered and grounded in a way that you know fully if you resonate with something. You're not just going on the whim with it because somebody else says so. You are really taking that time to see if it fits with you before you proceed. And it may fit with somebody else, but doesn't fit with you. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That is your inner guidance walking this fine tightrope. And I think this is where things can get off balance very quickly. So, for example, when gurus and spiritual teachers say, well, you need to learn who your guides are. Trust your guides. They will take care of you. That's true. However, something that Maggie and I learned along the way is that I want to be very careful how I phrase this. The energies that are not there for your highest good, okay, let's just put it that way, can allow themselves to replicate the energy of your friends upstairs. We talked about this a little bit, your guides, and they can do it in such a way that even those of us who are very keen on knowing energy and understanding energy can sometimes be tricked. So this is stuff that even Maggie and I have fallen into a couple times, where the energy is so exact that we're like, oh, it's just this little, there's just something not quite right, but like I'm trusting, I'm allowing, I'm going to go with it. And then we get burned for it later. And so this is one of those things where, yes, by all means, learn who your guides are, learn who you people are, learn the energy of them. But if someone comes into you, it comes into your clairaudience, your clairsentience, your feelings, your heart, and they're like, hey, I am your guide, and there's just one iota of energy that doesn't seem right, it's not right. And this is a really great example of those checks and balances, where it is a really spelled world out there, and you cannot just blindly go about it like everything is, cotton candy and unicorns. That's why it's because we have free will on this planet. And so this is one example. Do you want to add anything to that example?
Yeah, I have a little bit of a story about that. When I was earlier in my channeling practice, if any of you watch Hukalo, the Hukalo webinars on Saturday are involved in that community, you know of everybody's favorite reptilian Grindel. And I was channeling Grindel one time, and I consider him a friend of mine. I consider him a guide of mine. Not one of my closer guides, but he's someone who speaks through me sometimes if there are people who want to speak to him. And I thought that I had done a wonderful channeling of him. And as soon as I got out of the channeling, I heard in my head, don't you ever represent me like that again. And I was like, oh no, like I must have done something wrong. I must have done a bad job. And at that time, my discernment wasn't, I was still developing it. We're always still developing it, but it was less developed than it is now. So I called one of my teachers and said, I just channeled Grindel, and he yelled at me. He was really unhappy with my channeling. And she said, Maggie, that wasn't Grindel. They snuck in there with his voice right after you got done channeling to make you not want to channel him anymore, to make you feel like he doesn't like you, or he's not pleased with you. So that really taught me a lesson, because I know most of the people, if you're channeling good people, they won't say things to you, or if you're talking to good people that are your guides, and your guides should all be good people, they won't say things to you that make you feel low, or that make you feel ashamed, or that make you question yourself. So I had to learn that lesson in that way, because if my teacher hadn't corrected me, I would have taken that in and thought that that was Grindel telling me that he was displeased with me, and I would have never tried to channel him again. So they get into you with sneaky ways like that. You'll have a whole conversation with one being, and then they'll sneak a little comment in that shifts it a whole way that makes you feel bad about things. So that's a good litmus test. If what you're hearing is not making you feel well about yourself, or it just feels icky or off, then that's a place where you know this isn't something that I should be allowing. I need to investigate this further.
Right? Like, no matter how shiny it seems, no matter how perfect it seems, if it's the least bit off, it's off.
Exactly.
And that's when you need to know yourself enough to be able to say, hey, wait a minute, like, nice try, but you're not going to get me this time. Mm-hmm. And another one is what, okay, now listen very carefully. I want to preface this with listen very carefully, because this is a very important topic. It can get construed to something it's not. But when people say surrender control, give it to God. Okay, I'm not saying that I don't believe in God or that God's not like in my life. But the question is, what God are they talking about? What God are you surrendering to? Like, what higher being, even like ETs, what higher being are you surrendering to? I don't think a lot of people know, because they assume those that are in organized religions assume that it's the God that they were taught in these organized religions, but they've never really searched out what that means for themselves in terms of what God means to them. So they're blindly giving everything to this God that they're taught exists, but they don't really have a real relationship with them, even though they're led to think that they do. So there's also a lot of different gods.
Yes.
Like, money is a god, right? Materialistic things, that's a god. There's so many gods, and let's not just go with like the supreme creator. But there's a lot, we talk with Ra. They consider Ra a god, So what God? What God are you talking to? What God are you?
Even with Ra, people don't agree on who Ra is. There's a lot of different representations of Ra. We have one understanding of Ra, but other people, the Ra collective, other incarnations of Ra, we aren't talking to all of them. We're talking to our Ra, and we know exactly who he is. So it goes kind of the same way with God, or even greater.
Right, exactly. And when you do this, here's the thing, all of these things that we're talking about, all of this tightrope, these sly manipulations, these sly spells are led and purposely put on you or in your path to make it seem like you're doing the right thing, to make it seem like, you are moving forward and you're getting help doing it. And I'm not saying that you're not. I'm just saying that this is one of those very, very tight lines that we all have to walk, and we should all be walking. We should not, as individuals or a collective, just be hearing what other people say and being like, oh, that's great. Like, I'm not going to research that at all. I'm not going to really sit with it in my heart. I'm just going to say, the spaghetti monster is my new God. Like, you need to really sit with these things and think about them. I mean, you have a brain. Like, we talked about how the brain has sort of been washed and manipulated, but there's a reason you have a brain. You have to use it. You have to use it with your heart to fully know what's going on with these things. Did you want to add anything to that?
I had something in my mind. Let me see if I can grab it again. No, it's gone. I just had it in a thought, but I'll get it back. I just lost it for a second.
So, okay, so you may be thinking like, well, I can maybe understand some of the things they're saying. They're making sense, but like, how do I know? Well, you have to specify. So let me give you an example. Last night, the night before, I had a not so great encounter in my dreamscape, in my dream experiences, and I was very upset. And I said, what the hell? Like, you guys, I asked for protection. I did this big thing of like, not just saying, hey, protect me. I was very specific, or I thought I was very specific. And I was like, protect me tonight while I sleep, and protect me on every single realm that I travel, any sort of other person that I, go into or that I work with, like, please protect me. I need to ask for protection. And so then I heard, yes, it is given. And I was like, perfect. I'm done. I'm going to go to bed. I went to bed and I had this experience. We won't go into it, but I woke up and I was like, what the hell was that? I checked in right away, and sure enough, I had been shot with something. So I was like, why, guys? Why? Like, you said I was protected. What happened? And the simple answer was, you said protect me tonight, which was PM, not AM. And this sounds ridiculous. This is those things where, like, you got to be kidding. You have to be so specific. So I was angry about that. And then last night I was like, okay, let's try this again. And I went through everything again, and I phrased it so it was anytime I'm sleeping, AM, PM, and I did the whole thing again. And it was fine. And I checked in and I said, did anybody attempt to get in the back door? Any back doors? And they said, yes, there was three attempts, but like, you were protected because you used your free will to do it, and you didn't skip over any of the details. You didn't surrender yourself to assume that you were protected. You actually went through every single detail that could possibly happen, AM and PM and other realms. And so while this seems absolutely ridiculous, this is all part of the free will. So that means if you surrender yourself too much and not understand how free will is used, it is free for the taking. For any energy on this planet, anyone who knows how to use it, it's free for the taking. It's back doors to everything. And that seems scary. And I don't want to make it sound scary, but it's the world we live in. And these have been overlooked. These have been hidden. These ideas of presented to everyone, saying just surrender, just trust, just, like, yes, do it. But you have to know what you're doing, and you have to be in control of yourself in order to properly understand what that means here on this planet. And I don't think we're taught that. And so this is something that we want to bring forward at this time, because it's so important, especially with all of these energies amping up. The more fourth dimensional and fifth dimensional energy that you bring into your life, the more backdoors there are. Because you have to know how to work within those dimensions while living in the third dimension. And that's not easy. That's something, that Maggie and I still learn about every single night that we go to bed and wake up, and checking in with each other. And yes, so I feel like I'm being a Debbie Downer, but I'm standing in my truth of the things that I've experienced, the things that I have been taught, and Maggie as well. This is just stuff we're constantly learning about, and we're not happy when we learn about this, but it's very, very important to bring to you guys so you can start understanding how to properly use your free will.
Exactly. It's the process of self-empowerment. And, you could look at it as scary that there are a lot of forces out there that will take your energy if you just present it as a surrendered thing. But you don't have to make that your intention. You don't have to say, I surrender my will to the universe. They're showing me like a picture of um like a pool, like the universe, or the greater, surrendering yourself to all that is. That's a very big pool, and there are very positive forces in the universe and there are very negative forces in the universe. Like there's really cool kind mermaids and dolphins and stuff in that pool, but there are also sharks in that pool and things that maybe don't have your best interest in mind. But you don't have to say like, I give myself to the universe, do what you will with me. This is an extreme example. You can say, I give myself to the benevolent universe in my highest timeline, in my highest protection. It's not something that has to be scary or that you can't help. You just have to be specific with your intentions and where you're sending your energy. You have to specify it down just a little bit more precisely about what you're calling in. If you call in things that are only positive for you, I surrender myself to my own highest good, to the God who has my highest good in mind, then that narrows a lot of the stuff down that can sneak in there. So it's not something necessarily to be intimidated by. It's just an extra step or an extra way of you to assert your power to call to you the life that you want instead of just allowing things to come to you. You have every power to call exactly the things that you want to you, but you have to be specific, as Temple said.
Yep. And this is how the whole concept of, what do they call that? Of using the universe to live the way you want to live, to call the things to the universe. So to piggyback off what Maggie said, we have this nice little quote that will help you guys think about this in a very positive way, because Maggie's right. You can look at it as like, oh God, this is really hard. Or you can look at it as like, the universe and this world are my oyster. Now that I know exactly what I need to do to make it so. So here's the thing. Don't surrender to the ocean. Command the ocean, because you are already a part of it. You are not separate from it. And that just gave me really big chills, even though we've read that a couple times. And this is it. Use your free will to tell the universe exactly what you want to happen. Don't let it invert to have the people who think they run the universe, or to think they run this planet and think that they run you, to be able to use you however they want. You flip it because you're in control. It's not them.
Exactly. And, sometimes we don't know what exactly we want, or we think that we know what exactly we want, but there's a higher path out there that we have no idea about. I mean, this happens all the time. So there are times that you'll know really, really specifically what you want and what you want to draw in that moment, and ask for it. And a really important aspect of that is belief as well. You have to believe it's coming to you. You have to believe that, you are not someone who is in the flow of the waves of the universe. You are one with the universe. You are the flow of the wave of the universe. And you can be that wave, and in the same, energy, ride that wave wherever you want it to. But you can't believe that you are controlled by these outside forces. It's not true. And more strongly that you believe that, the more you will draw the things to you that you would desire. But I'm getting off topic. Even if you don't know exactly what you want, half the time, I don't know what I want. I don't know what's best for me in a moment. There's a higher plan that I'm never aware about. So I just call in my highest timeline. What's the highest timeline for me? I draw to me my highest timeline, in my highest happiness, my highest protection, my highest empowerment. And even it's not super specific, but it does weed out a lot of the things that would come in to mess me up.
Right. It's not going to weed out all of them, because if you built a lesson in there that you have to learn, but at the same time, for beginning purposes, it's a very nice way to start. This other thing that I had shared on the Temple Beautiful Facebook page speaks about it perfectly. It says, the essence of spirituality is to constantly be aware of the oneness of all, and at the same time celebrate the uniqueness of the individual. And I think that is so true. And when you are reminded that that the flower is not separate from you, that the person sitting next to you is not separate from you. You are all one, but you also in that have your own uniqueness to stand in your own power, to command the things in the universe that you desire. So it's one of these things where it's about this balance of surrendering and command. Mm-hmm. And while it is a very fine line of balancing, because you have to do both, but you don't want the scales like tipping. You want to have the scales in balance. And so with that, I'm going to say, it ties in with a limited mind that's keeping you from searching. Because when you blatantly believe something that is tossed at you, whether it's on the television, whether it's politics, whether it's history. I mean, I can't even stress how like so much of history isn't even true these days. When you blindly accept that, you're limiting not only your mind, but you're limiting yourself from your expansion. Mm-hmm. So when you unlimit that, but put your own parameters on it of where you want to go, where you want to search, and maybe it'll take you to a different place. That is really the true essence of taking sovereignty over yourself. And this brings me into the law of one thing, which I don't know if Ra wants to mention or if he wants me to skip that for a bit.
I think he'll mention it briefly. I think he has a brief message about it. And then afterward, he wants us to do some codes and activations to help people. He's saying, I'll just channel him because I don't want to butcher his words.
Okay. I just want to say a couple more things before, maybe while you're getting ready, I can just say a few things. So this ties in this whole idea of the problem in surrendering too much is that they take these words that in the beginning don't mean what they necessarily mean now, and they invert it. A lot of our world is built on the inversion of belief systems, of spelling words. It's all about the inversion. So they say to be humble and selfless is what you need to be a good light worker, to be a good person, to be the best you that you can be. But here's the problem with that. It's good to be humble. It's good to give of yourself, but you want to do it because it really resonates with you, and you want to do it in a healthy way where you're not being so selfless. You actually allowed the word to spell you. Because let's take it apart. Selfless means without self. So many of us are walking around today on this planet and we're giving and giving and giving and giving. There's nothing left of the self. There's a reason it's called selfless. It's without self. And it's a spell on these words. And this is something Maggie and I have been studying for the last week. There is tons of them. Chivalry. That's another one. I could talk for hours on that one. This ties into the idea of what is really shame, what they want you to believe shame is, how these spells are based off shaming you in your body, shaming you as a soul, shaming you just for being here, when really all that does is make you give up and surrender yourself and allows them to control you. That's all it was meant to do. And so when you fall into this without even realizing, is he talking to you?
No, he's with both of us, and he's like, you don't need to channel anymore. Temple's channeling what I wanted to say. That's exactly what
No, I think you should channel. So I'll let Ross speak about this because I think he can probably do it better justice than what I'm doing. But even submission, vulnerability, I could go on and on about like the Victorian ethics of how this all got misused and put on the woman in the wrong way. It talks about the divine feminine, but let's save that because I always enjoy it when Ra comes to talk. So if he's okay, it would be wonderful if he would still want to come through you.
He's like, what do I have to say now? She stole my thunder. I was
I'm
like,
sorry. Well, you still have something to say about the law of one, because otherwise I'm going to start talking about it, and you probably don't want that to happen.
He doesn't want to talk about the law of one tonight.
All right.
He wants that to be a whole separate thing.
Oh, wow.
I was going to say what the thing about giving yourself too much, giving yourself too much in service to others, focusing only on those outside of you, which is what we're often taught to do in like religious and spiritual communities. It's all about giving to everyone else, being in service to others all the time. That's not a positive agenda. That is a way for them or other people. You're just being siphoned all the time. You're allowing your energy to be vampired when you're thinking about everyone else, and nobody ever talks about thinking about yourself. There's an aspect, I guess we'll talk about this next time, but there's two aspects in the law of one: service to others and service to self. And you need to be in service to self first before you can be in service to others, because not every service to others is something that's good for you. If you put yourself in service to others constantly all the time, you see it happening with mothers and women, especially all the time, especially people who are very empathic and very giving. They're miserable on the inside because they give and they give and they give. And a lot of times they don't even know who they are because all they see themselves is as a giver. You need to be of service to self. And I probably shouldn't talk about this too much now, but you need to let me just bring Raw through because now he's talking some more. I don't want to be butchering his words anymore.
Oh.
Greetings, I am Ra. Can you hear me?
I can. Thank you for coming, Father.
I have often spoken about being in service to yourselves. I have often spoken about taking back your power. I have often spoken about removing the conditionings upon the mind that they have taught you from a young age. These are, in this setting, the only things that I have spoken about. I do not know what good it will do to speak about them again, to reiterate myself again. For these concepts I have already made clear. The problem is the energy that you as a race, some of you as individuals hold. You hear me saying these words about self-empowerment, calling your power back, building yourself up in a new way, releasing the programming and narratives that they have taught you so that you may be more strong individually, have more fortitude individually to go forward on your individual missions to the world, to others. I can speak until Maggie's face turns blue, my dear friends, but it is difficult when I still see so many of you out there not feeling the energy of worth within yourselves, not feeling that you truly have the command over yourselves that you do. You hear what I have to say. You hear words of empowerment from me and others, but you think, not for me, maybe for someone else, but not for me. I am not worthy. I am not empowered. I cannot say these powerful things about myself because I do not deserve. The root of it my friends, for so many of you is that you are brilliant. You are spiritually advanced. The issue is the light within you, the worthiness. You know all of these things mentally, but you cannot bring yourselves up in the space of your own heart to believe that they could be true for you. And this is where so many of you hold yourselves back. This is where so many of you surrender to the wills of others because you do not have the confidence, the sense of worth within you to impose your own will upon the world. So many of you do not even know what you want because for so long you have been taught and you have enacted the energy that what everyone else wants is more important than what you want. Everyone else's needs are more important than yours. And in this, you have been kept low and controlled. This is a certain kind of surrender that so many of you light workers are in today. You let yourself be told, you let yourself be moved because you do not feel the worthiness that is necessary within yourself, the worthiness that is inherent within yourselves. And I can speak and speak and speak, but I cannot make you feel that. You must feel that spark inside of you, and then you will see how the world begins to shift in your favor. Without the proper worth, without the proper self-esteem, my friends, you will always be in a state of surrender to external forces because the force within is not strong enough to move the external, to move things in your highest timeline, to draw the things to you that are in alignment with your divinity, your divine sovereignty, your divine spark, because you are not in alignment with your sovereignty. You are in alignment with the teachings of another, the will of another, and you give yourself to these things. And this is not a criticism, this is a conditioning. I am speaking to you today so that you may be aware of these things. I hope that I am being clear enough. I would like to send you some energy to feel more empowered within yourselves, to up the quotient of worth, so at least you can get started from somewhere. You can know how that feels to have sovereignty within yourself, to not allow external things to dictate where you go, how you feel, what you do. I want it to come from within you, my friends. Are there any questions?
There are not at this time, Father.
Daughter, was I clear? Is there anything that you would like clarity on?
I think it's very clear. The only thing I was thinking that might be of further help would be talking about the God self and how it's within each of us, and it's not on the outside, it's in the inside and within all things. And I think people forget that. They think the God self or the God or a God or their God is always external. It's not external.
God, wonderful question, my daughter. God is not external to any of you. He is external in the sense that the universe is external to you, but also the universe is internal to you. The spark of life within each and every one of your hearts is your God self. This is your connection to source. You have never been separated from source. You are not separate from source. You are an extension of source itself. It lives within you and you within it. You are not separate. You are one. So when giving your will, your desire to the universe, know that you are giving it to yourself. Do not imagine that you are giving your will to an angel or an alien guide or any one being who is external to you. Give your will to the God spark within your heart, and you will know that your energy is never misplaced. It is never misused because you are giving it to God, the God which is within you, which is the same as the God which you see as external to you. If you are always giving your will, giving your surrender to the light within your heart, you are by definition giving it to God. You need not look anywhere outside of yourselves. Practice. Engage yourself in the practice of giving within, giving within, giving within. All you need is within. Give it to the source within you, and the source within you will speak to you, give you wisdom, give you energy. This is something that is not currently taught widely. They are always teaching you to give it here and there, and listen to this and this and this. The only thing you need to listen to, my friends, is the God within your heart, and God is within all of your hearts. Give all of your troubles, all of your desires, all of your worries, all of your wants to your own heart, and your heart will respond, for God is within your heart, and your heart is God. This topic is very complex. It is not something that is easy to speak about in the course of even the amount of time that we are speaking. But I hope that conceptually you can see that you do not have to give any power to anything external to you. God gifted you with everything you need within you already. You are the living embodiment of every life, every wisdom, every skill, every experience you have ever had that has prepared you for this one. It is all within you, and it is all there to be tapped into. You do not need anything external to you. Do not, unless you trust the person or trust the being, give yourself or give your mind to the ideas of anything external to you, unless it resonates with what is already there within you. Be conscious about these things. Please be conscious. I do not want to initiate fear. It is the last thing I want to do. However, there are forces in this universe who will take the naive giving of self, giving of energy, surrendering and allowing to these external things. This faith in trusting is taken advantage of often, more often than I like to say, so much more often. So this is why it is so important you get in the practice of giving it to yourself. Give what you want to yourself, and then yourself is the only one who can receive your energy. Give it to the God within yourself. He is there. You do not need to give it anywhere outside of yourself. Does this make sense?
It does. We have a question and sort of a comment. So Devin says, so clear, Ra, thank you. I'm working on my self-worth. I'm finding that when my boundaries are crossed or I am disrespected, I get incredibly angry. And then I feel guilty for getting so angry. Do you have any words of wisdom for this?
Can you repeat the question once more?
Yes. So clear, Ra, thank you. I am working on my self-worth. I am finding that when my boundaries are crossed or I am disrespected, I get incredibly angry. And then I feel guilty for getting so angry.
You feel angry because you are a person who is fed up with allowing your boundaries to be crossed. You are one of these people who is so good-hearted that you are so often giving and giving and giving. And your spirit self, your soul self, has gotten to a point in your spiritual evolution where it has said, enough. This is not a part of my mission to be giving so without the self, so selflessly to others for nothing in return. Your spirit is ready to take that energy back for itself so you can apply where you would like your energy to be, so that you can have some sovereignty over the way your energy moves within your body and moves out into the world. You are a very powerful person, and you are moving in a way of even higher empowerment. So anger is a normal and necessary even emotion at this time. The anger tells you that you are fed up with these things. You are fed up with your energy being taken in a way that you are not pleased with. If there is any mistake that you are making, it is applying that anger in judgment in any way. This anger is coming up to be heard, to tell you that you are ready to go to the next level, that you are fed up with giving your energy away and yourself will not stand for it anymore. Do not apply it in judgment to the person you are angry at. It is misplaced there. Allow yourself to feel it. Allow yourself to feel it without judging the other person or without judging yourself. As you feel it, it will dissipate and integrate again. That anger is a part of your energetic field that can integrate back into a positive polarity. But if you put a judgment on it towards someone else, it will be directed toward that person and your energy will be taken away from you again. Or if you direct it toward yourself in guilt, then it will be misdirected again and stay as a lower emotion within you. When you do not put judgments on your feelings, when you allow them to be, this is when you are able to integrate them back into your energetic body to use to your own will. Allow it to transform back into the positive polarity, into the polarity of positivity, if I may correct myself. I would like to add that the worst thing that you can do, I don't care so much if you get angry at someone else, but do not get angry with yourself. Do not feel guilt or shame toward yourself. This is the most self-destructive thing that any human can do or does. This energy of shame and guilt is one of the lowest vibrations that humans do experience. You are at your lowest in this place. Your worth is at its lowest. You are thinking that you are doing something wrong. There is something wrong with you. And that is what you are telling every energy in your body when you feel these energies. Have compassion for yourself. Say, I am growing. I am learning. I am trying to be better every day. And I am improving every day. I am not going to judge myself. Whatever I am going through is a learning process. And I love myself through this process as I would love a child, because in so many ways, so many of you are in the energy of relearning about the world, about yourself as a child does. You must have the patience with yourself that you would with a child. Speak to yourself with that same kind voice. Would you tell a child to feel guilty? Would you want a child to feel shame? No, I do not want any of you to feel these energies either. Have compassion for yourself above anything and anyone else, and that will bring you just in itself so far.
Perfect. Thank you, Father. I was going to add to that. I wrote in the chat, but this maybe, I don't know if we actually want to touch on this topic, but it is a large topic. I think the guilt that Devin feels is a part that is still attached to the allowing of others to make you feel selfless. You're angry about it because you realize it's time for you to let go, but then you have this guilt coming in to keep you in that lower energy. This is the inversion of the spell of guilt. Guilt should be a guidance for you, but in this case, it is not. And this is what I was talking about with some of the inversions of the feelings that we feel, how they can use it in a way it's not meant to be, but use it for their whose ever personal agenda to keep siphoning your energy. Yes. I don't know if you have anything to say to that.
My response to that is compassion. You must have compassion for the guilt that you feel. You must have love for it. Yes, it is an inversion. Yes, it is a negative agenda. Yes, it is a way to keep you low and keep them siphoning energy from you. That is very well said and well analyzed, my daughter. But the only way to reverse these negative spells want to keep you in a place of shame, a place of judgment, a place of guilt. The only thing that can counter shame and guilt and judgment is the unbridled fire of love, unconditional love and compassion. This is God's core energy. And in fact, this is one of the core energies of the sun, which I represent. I shine on all. My light touches all. In the same way, allow your love to touch yourself. Send it to yourself as brightly as you send it to everyone else, and you will heal yourself just as you so often heal the lives of those around you. You must first learn to apply it to yourself. You will become so much stronger in this way. You deserve it first before anybody else does.
Very well said, Father. Devin says, this is so true and so helpful. It gave me goosebumps. Yes. So I think it was very good. Yes, thank you.
I am glad to be of service to you.
We don't have any questions at this moment. Did you want to do some coding or some light language that you had mentioned earlier?
Yes. Let us, daughters, come together to give some language, coding, and activations to help those who are listening in their sense of worth, the spark of sovereignty within themselves, the spark to take back their power from the places that they have given it away or the places where it is currently unconsciously taken. Let us help to flip this switch so that the light shines more brightly within the collective. Oto, koto tatalea tatu, mantaya satilea kasata tu mayata, lano kote la casa tu pasata le ete, sunda casa, sunda casa, hinda asatina amasoto kasata, noroeata satine andata, sukutu se asati, musu kasati le asata, lana sati inda asatu, masati maasati 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 turre asata sikata anasata usuka lohola asa si atasa tunkunta nayata sindayasa 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 susayasa su hasaya 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 sati ina asata noro asa Bista asati, hinda sikista asa, tu uso ke anasati isa asa, dono asate. I turn it to you, my daughter.
Guto baskatialaniat at yask. Butukushkutono bask. Yet olukt umushkat each and kushk at ut it. Dus de lijk en het usk int umpskat butiat tot bukulotorias kateriani aliat tubiako to dia poskana butiale askatayala ata tieku uskatvanaliato moguto poskata naskulu to diata bulu Muskatliata kenia tushkata pukuto kata kushkata na mukulokoto piakatala antas kututiana kata totukumatikat tiakuloto toshkaniata pukutukutiala askadaniata putaka and ishkt ut anik at askata muskulotia pushko muskulia putushko buta anaskutuputo Naskata Lashata. Namaste.
I will take my leave now, unless there is anything else.
Let me just double check here. Nope. Thank you so much, Father, for joining us tonight. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I wish you all the highest sovereignty, empowerment, and joy within your divine vessels in the way that God ordained it for you when you came to this earth. I love you all.
That was beautiful. That was really helpful. I'm really glad he came through.
Me too. He said that he was like, Temple said everything that I wanted to say, but I guess he thought of more things to say.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad he did, because those were things like, like I can see, this is actually a good lesson for me. So I can see where I understood that guilt from Devin's question being flipped, but I wouldn't have known to be like, send that love so you can diminish it. And so you can, that's something that I learned tonight. So, so I'm really glad that he came through. And then when I was giving the codes, Michael's hand was on my shoulder and he's like, that's my girl. And I was like, try to work here, please.
He's such a good cheerleader.
I know, right? He's such a good cheerleader. He was talking a lot, though, about how this is really relevant to him in his life. And he's like, I know you don't like me talking about my life all the time, but like, I think this is really important stuff, because he was saying this is the stuff that he understood. Maybe he didn't understand it outwardly, but he knew enough that he embodied it in a way in which helped him continue on his path without surrendering anything about him to other people. And he was saying that this is one of the reasons that so many different groups that were trying to take him down were so upset with him, because he could see what was happening and he would stand in his power, and he was able to look at the situations and work through them in such a way in which they were never really able to take him down. Were there trials and tribulations and things? Yes, there were. But he always saw the other side of like what they were trying to do to him. And so he said, when you can see that, then you can see how to better go about the situation. He's like, did I have everything all figured out in my life? He's like, no, I didn't. I was only human. But he said that he was able to unlimit himself in a way in which he didn't let anything tell him how he should act, how he should be, what sort of music he wanted to make. He kept himself in a way in which he was able to hang on to that purity of innocence, but used it in a way in which that was a connection for him to be able to bring information from higher realms down, where if he had gone about it differently, if he was in a place where instead of saying, like, Michael, we really need to do this. This is what we're going to do. And he'd say, okay, like, yeah, whatever, we'll just do that. He's like, then other people would have been controlling my life. And while it's hard to say in many ways my life wasn't controlled, he kept a very tight rein on everything going on behind the scenes as far as like music and videos and like whatnot. And he's like, why don't I just talk? But is there anything else that... He's just saying that the ideas of them trying to shame him to give up his sovereignty in his position, and the idea of trying to make him submit to something to put him in a vulnerable position, all of those things, all of those tricks that plague humanity, he really tried to do the best he could to maneuver through them in a higher understanding way. Did he always do it perfectly? No. But he said that this is something that he did understand while being down here, that a lot of these things are flipped around and how he best understood it. So I don't know.
Well, I think it's really awesome that he's talking about these things, because if he's someone who lived his life that way, look at what an icon he is, you know? Nobody judges him now for having been different. And when he was, everybody loved him because he did his own thing.
He goes, Maggie, he goes, I get judged every day. He says.
He's so beloved as well. You know, he's so beloved to people for having done his unique thing. And if he did something that, you know, if he followed the crowd, then he wouldn't be who he was, and he wouldn't have brought joy to so many lives.
Right. And that's, he's like, exactly, you got it. And this is the thing, like, I took care of myself. I took care of my sovereignty the best I could, being in the position I was. And I did it so I could bring the joy that I thought the world needed. And he said, was it always easy? No, but it was very important that he kept sovereign within himself and didn't give himself too much of himself away. So
did I say that nobody judged him? I don't, if I said
you
that.
did. Yeah. And he's like, did she just say that? I was like, I think she did. It was really cute.
I don't know where my head was at there, because obviously I know that.
It was so funny. Like, I think he did this, he like, in my mind's eye anyway, like his eyes got really big and he was like, did she just say that? I think she did. Yeah.
I didn't mean it, Michael.
Yeah. So, I hope that this has been helpful for you guys as you're working on your self-worth. All of these little tidbits kind of string along, and once you get enough of these in your bag or on the table as puzzle pieces, and you can kind of put them together, you can see, instead of looking at each individual one, you can see a bigger picture on how it all fits together for what the human being is supposed to be on this planet. The human being is not supposed to have no sense of self, is not supposed to have their energy constantly siphoned from them. The human being is not supposed to be food energy for other people. A human being is supposed to be able to come here to use their free will in a way that allows them to really make something of themselves and do it in a way in which they are living their highest joy. And then because they're living their highest joy, that joy, like Michael's saying, see, this is what happened. The highest joy ripples out to everybody. And so together, everybody can be happy and everybody can be unique within themselves, and it all works. But unfortunately, the way the world is now, everything is flipped on its head. And until you can really step back to see the manipulations that are so minute in your everyday life, this is where the issue is. If they're so minute, it's hard to see. But once you can see it, you can't unsee it. And that leads to change. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know, is there anything else you wanted to add? Otherwise, this may be a little bit shorter tonight than we usually go. We usually go about 2 hours. I don't even know how long we have been
about
streaming. But I think that this is kind of a heavy topic to begin with, and we don't want it taken out of context of what it is. It really is about finding your self-worth and learning how to work with that free will law and learning how the earth and this world are currently working so you can do the best you that you can be and maneuver easily through these tiny manipulations and inversions of what is constantly out there for you guys to fall into. So anything else, Maggie?
I just want to say, if this topic seemed heavy, don't be too hard on yourselves. You know, I'm finding out, and me and Temple are finding out new things every day where we misunderstood an energy, or it was more complex than we thought, or there was a manipulation there that we hadn't seen for a long time. It's really sneaky the way the energies of the universe operate, and there's always something new to discover and always a new level to get to. And if you're you're still working through these things. We all are. It's not something that you need to see as a really tall mountain to climb or something that you're not doing well at. You just have to take it a situation at a time and a moment at a time and try to be in the highest alignment with your truth at that given time that you can, and you'll keep learning from there. So it doesn't have to be something that's intimidating or strikes fear in your heart. We're all here as humans to have this kind of experience, and we're here to help each other work through it together. So I just want everyone to feel empowered coming out of this, even though it was kind of a bit heavy in places.
I think that's beautiful. I think that's a really positive way to end it. And we encourage you to look on the positive side of how this all comes out actually in your favor. Mm-hmm. So with that, I think we will head out for tonight. That was a very we will head out for tonight. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining us for Wednesdays with Ra. And those of you who catch us later, we really appreciate it. And as always, we are here to help you guys and to help us as well as we learn. So we're all learning together, and we're all being able to experience and check in with everybody. And we just appreciate you guys being here. So, Val just chimed in. She said, the fear of the unknown is the scariest part, she said. Do you have anything that you want to say to that real quick?
Whenever I'm scared of something that's unknown, or the fear of the unknown, that's the joy of the human experience, that, life comes at you with surprises, and the feeling of excitement and joy at discovering something new is something that we have as a race that not everyone else has. The fear of the unknown, you can look at it as something scary, or you can look at it as every day is exciting and there's something new waiting for you. You can be an explorer of the world, an explorer of your own self, an explorer of the universe, and you never know what treasures you're going to find. I try to look at it like that.
I love that. And I was thinking the same thing, like when I look back on life and I think in that moment, oh boy, this is really scary. Like, I'm not sure I'm navigating this properly, or I'm not really sure what to think about this. And then it passes, because as Ramses reminds me, it's only a blink of an eye. It's only a blink of an eye down here. And then I look back on it and I'm like, oh my gosh, that in the moment was so scary for me, but it led me to this. And that is so exciting. So now I tend to think of things as, even if it's scary in the moment, I just take a breath and I'm like, it's probably more than likely going to lead me to my next greatest excitement. And that is not scary at all. And that is amazing to me. And so I hope that helps you a bit with perspective, Val. I know that things can be kind of scary, but it's all in how you look at it. And is the glass half empty or half full? And we're allowed to be scared. That's the best part. Like, we're allowed to be scared. It's free will. But how you maneuver through it and how you see it after you're finished with it is really, it's not about, Ramses always reminds me about this too. Michael's like, hey, I remind you about this too. It's not always about how you handle it in the moment. It's about the big picture. And so while we think something, we may not have done something perfectly in that one little moment, that little teeny tiny seed of the bigger experience, it's how we actually kept moving to come out to create this bigger experience, which we succeeded at. And both the boys, Ramses and Michael, are on me all the time about this. So with that,
can I add one more?
Yes. Yes.
I channeled one time, and I think this is relevant here in what we're talking about. I don't remember who was talking, but being nervous about something, this is a double-sided coin. Nervousness and excitement are two sides of the same coin. If you choose to be nervous about something or fearful of something, then you might be drawing things to you, or a future that has those things in it. But if you feel it in your body, the energy of nervousness for something to happen and the energy of excitement are really, really similar. So if you can choose to flip the script in your brain and you're feeling that energy and you say, I'm not scared for the future. I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for what the future is going to bring to me. You're experiencing the same energy. You're just changing the script that you're putting on it. And in that, you are changing a lot because the world becomes an exciting place, an adventurous place, a wonderful place, instead of a place to be scared then. And then the reality that you draw to you will shift with just that one simple thing, because the emotion is really the same when you get to the base of it.
I think that's a really good leeway into what is in my brain at this very moment. So what you were talking about lends itself really well, I think, to this whole idea of what the outside of you wants you to feel versus how you choose you to feel. And that is really the piece of chocolate cake in this whole thing, is that the outside forces, whomever they may be, want you to feel a certain way about life, about everything around you. They want you to feel a certain way. So if you can take that feeling and make it yours and make it positive, or make it suit you in a higher vibrational way somehow, then that is you taking control of you and not allowing them, realizing what they're attempting to do, realizing what they're trying to siphon off you, and then it doesn't work. And that's really the whole what's that word, Maggie? Crux. A crux. That's of this whole thing. So I'm glad you actually brought that up, Val, because they want you to feel fear as a glass half empty, as a negative concept. They've instilled in us that fear is a bad thing. Well, what if there's a flip side of that? And it's not necessarily fearing, it's being excited for what this next thing is. And they want you to feel it a different way because they want to use that energy.
Agency. Fear takes away your agency. Excitement gives you agency. So always choose the side of the coin where you have agency over what's going on. You have agency over how you're feeling, and not something outside dictating how you're going to feel or how you're going to live your life.
Exactly. And this is, again, part of that whole idea of knowing some of the basics of how this is happening. Television is like a big one. Cell phone, social media, gigantic one. All of these small things. So if you can limit your time on them, you're doing something for yourself. Limit your time. Go take a walk outside. Pick up a dusty book that you probably haven't picked up in years. Do something where it's just you and your heart and your brain, and you're learning about you. Again, you're able to feel, you're able to get out in nature. Do those things. Recognize when they're trying to bombard you in these energies. Recognize this. I guess this would be like, if you guys are into like the whole homework thing, this would be really great homework to start kind of recognizing what you feel in your life are the things that are kind of coming at you with specific energies to try to manipulate how you're feeling. And also when people are using words with you, or when you are using words with people, this is another great homework tidbit, to be conscious of what is coming out of your mouth and what is coming out of their mouth. Because chances are, at this point, nobody really knows. They're speaking their language. Nobody really knows what selfless means. Nobody knows what the root word of chivalry is or where it came from. Let me tell you where chivalry came from, because this is just something that just is really in the forefront of my mind lately. So the idea of chivalry, and for you guys who aren't sure what this is like where the men open the door for the women, where, it's like this protective thing where, how do you want to explain it, Maggie? Like, it's this knight, this concept of like a knight is chivalrous, right? A knight is like giving of self, is there for making sure other people are safe. It's chivalry, right? You're the wordsmith. So
no, I think you have it perfect.
Okay. All right. So chivalry is a concept that emerged around the 10th century AD in France when the Christian church began attempting to regulate the violence endemic to the Frankish society. The term comes from the French word chevalier or knight, who derives the name from cheval or horse. So this whole idea of chivalry came about to regulate violence. And when we think about how it turned around in like the Victorian period of like men needing to be chivalrous to women to open the doors. So they take away like the, how do you want to call that? They take away the blank of the woman.
Is agency appropriate here?
I think agency is appropriate. Yeah. So everything is done for her because she can't do anything herself. So it like takes away part of the self of the woman. And so all of these things, it's just think about what these original words were, and you may have to look them up. And I know for me and myself doing this, it's been so fascinating. We don't think of what the words really are when they actually are meaning something else. And there's a reason why they have us using them. So
yeah, you could spend all day picking apart every word that you use. And it's really interesting to go back to the roots of everything because they have a lot of words spelled. So if you have the time or the interest in going back and, speaking and then looking back on the words that you're speaking, it would be an interesting exercise to see if we could update our vocabulary and find positive words and positive replacements for some of these words that have roots that are maybe not so positive that we didn't even know about. But that's a lot of homework.
Exactly. That is a lot of homework. Yeah. We won't give you guys that much homework, but if it's of interest to you, I think you will be surprised in what you guys may find. So with that, we wish you guys love and have a beautiful evening, morning, wherever you guys are. And thank you so much for tuning in. And we look forward to talking to you guys again.